Hello and welcome to Transforming with Carol. My name is Carol, a transformational speaker, writer, blogger, and movable optimist, and I'm here to help you become the best version of yourself in your personal life as well as your business. Today we are talking multiple streams of income. So we'll be right back as I introduce my guests for today. Thank you so much for staying with us. So today, like I said, we are talking multiple streams of income. And my guest for today is Pastor Mwape. We are going to be talking about a wonderful brand. We're going to be talking about the ways that you can transform your life. And we're going to be talking about being empowered, not just as a woman, but being transformed as a family. Pastor Mwape, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Carol. And good day to you, our viewers. It's such a pleasure for me to be here. I'm excited about this one. I know that many lives will be transformed.
Definitely. So the whole show is about people transforming from a place of, understanding that they can be a better version of themselves in a personal life as well as business. So today we're talking multiple streams of income. What does that mean? What does it mean for not just Zambia, but as a continent at large?
Okay, very interesting question. When you look at our lives have so many facets to them.
Yeah.
We have your personal life, your spiritual life, your family, and so on.
Yeah.
Even when you look at a typical home budget, it will have very different expense lines.
Yeah.
So you have your groceries, you have your relish, your clothing, and so on. So anytime you see that there are multiple expenses or multiple facets of life, they should be matched with multiple streams of income.
That's a different way of seeing things.
How can you have 30 things on your budget and then there's just one income to support all that? It's a strain and it's also a risk. If you have a budget that has 12 lines, for instance, you're talking rent, you're talking tax, you're talking fuel for the car, and so on. Ideally, each major outlay should be matched with a major inlay so that if you have any challenges with any of the incomes, you don't have your whole budget coming to a standstill.
Okay.
And even when you look at it at other levels, for instance, if you're in ministry, if you are a business, for example, there is such a thing as managing your risk portfolio, being able to see how best you can cushion yourself against uncertainties, because life is very dynamic. Life happens, like some people would put it.
You
Hits
you on the blunt side.
Exactly. You can have a situation like we are currently faced with, where the mines are being, the way they've been operating is being reconsidered. What happens to a person whose only source of income was that salary from the mines, or that profit that comes from them supplying the mines? It shifts their whole life. And in my personal work, I've had situations from my parents and even from myself where your one stream of income is under threat because of restructuring, because the economy has changed, because there's technology which has come about, and a machine is able to replace what you were doing. And if you are relying, exactly, and if you're relying on just that one aspect, what it means is that your whole life grounds to a halt because your income has been either shifted or it has been taken away. So multiple streams of income, this is a conversation that we should be having from a very tender age. We should be teaching our kids that the same way you see that you need your groceries, you need your food, you need to match the income for those major outlays in your life.
Okay, so now you spoke about having that one stream of income. Tell us a bit about yourself. Before we go to the brand, and for me, what caught my eye was the fact that you're the top earner in one of the industries that we're going to be speaking about today. But I want to know a little bit about you. How did you get to being the top earner, but then what made you make that decision, apart from just the fact that it's having different expenses and having different ways in which money can come into the household? Because I'm assuming here that everybody that knows you have been speaking to them about this, but how have you practically been an example in transforming people's minds?
Okay, thank you, Carol. Now let's take it back to where we're coming from. I'm an accountant by profession. I studied ACCA.
Most professions wouldn't think of doing what you're doing.
You're right. So I studied ACCA from ZCAS. I graduated in 2001. And when we're coming up, our parents tell us that school is important because it gives you a platform for you to be able to get yourself a good job, and then you'll be empowered and so on. So I'm coming from a background where my father is also an accountant and a pastor, by the way. And Dad, I love you. But, you know, there was a point in his life after serving as a financial controller, a chief accountant, you know, those top positions that even earn you enough income to be able to fly.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, you know, at some point I was at Fatima and he had enough money to be able to fly us from Lusaka to Ndola for school. And then restructuring took place. He was working for a parastatal, and because of that, they said they would not need any more staff. It's the Zam Cargo, that was his last station. And you know, for somebody who is approaching retirement and all they've known is how to work, it's very difficult for you to have a business that takes off. So there were lessons to pick up from there, because I've noticed that a lot of people think of building houses when they retire. They think of getting into a business when they get their gratuity. But guess what? Digging a well when you are thirsty is very dangerous. Most of the times people fail because at the time that they want to establish a business, they have competing needs, and businesses need time in order for them to thrive. Okay, let's just go back a little. So my dad had a very successful career as an accountant, but one thing I noticed is that he had just that one source of income. My mom is a teacher and she's an amazing woman. My mom has always been the kind of person who multitasks. So she had her salary as a teacher, but she would always be selling. She was selling, whether it was cooking oil in the times when we had shortages, or you know, it was bathing soap, or she was always selling something. Even now as we speak, my mom is at a place where the house they live at has many fruit trees. She's always selling lemons, avocados, mangoes, whatever is in season she would be selling. And I picked that up from my mom. Because I got to realize that at a critical time when my dad had no job, it was my mom's income which was able to sustain the family, and also the skills that my mom possessed in being able to sell, that my mom was able to rally on for her to be able to raise enough money for us to have school fees and so on. Of course, my dad also joined in and started doing his own business. But there's something that I noticed. When you are in a business that requires you to be present 24/7 in order for it to continue running, anytime you have an issue such as perhaps an illness in the family, a funeral, it means the income stream stops. So
it matters what business you get into.
It does matter. And also from reading and so on, you find that the ones that have the most passive income are the ones that stand the highest chance of being financially free and then later on even being wealthy. So through those lessons in life from my parents, I began to see the different streams of income that an individual could have. Of course, we also picked up books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad that began to now clarify and put more meat to those thoughts. So now in my personal career, I did my high school at Fatima and then went to Zikas. And after Zikas, I graduated, I started working. My first job was at Deloitte, where I was working under the corporate recovery. And interestingly, that job was dealing primarily with businesses that are going under. It's those that were, you know, bankrupt.
So there were lessons to pick from that as well.
A whole lot. Receivership, liquidations, that's what I was working on. And then later on, I joined the ZRA as a customs officer. And after joining ZRA, I noticed that there was so much creativity that I could express in other fields. So I joined Seedco. And when I joined Seedco, my first posting was as a market development officer, and then I went to procurement. And you know, over time, businesses restructure, and Seedco underwent restructuring, and my job was on the line.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
So now it was time for me to sit up, because you know, people, when you look at retrenchments and restructuring, people think that it's the old people. But at the time that was happening, I was young, only had 2 children. My second born was a couple of months old, and there was a lot that was at stake, because it meant that we would shift from having 2 sources of income in the home to having just 1 source of income. And when you've budgeted and you've structured your life a particular way,
it must have been taxing.
Yes, it was quite a change. But you know, thankfully we had ministry running, and I also had started a bridal business and several other things. I picked up that trait of being able to make do with what you have. Sell if you have to, go out and get clients if you have to. I picked that up from my mom. And it's a necessary skill that any person who is serious about financial freedom, you need to learn how to sell. Yeah. So when that happened, you know, again, back to the principle, you cannot dig a well when you're thirsty. I now said, I want to live the same kind of life I used to live when I was working.
But things have changed.
So I started exploring opportunities, tried several network marketing companies because of how they'll tell you that, you know, when you join this business, you can be a 6-digit income earner, you can travel the world and so on. And I was intrigued by that. But I never really took time to study how it's done. So I would join, I was a hit and run sort of distributor where I would join, jump in, and before I would even bring in the first person on board, I would just jump out and go to the next one and go to the next one. And I got to a place where I concluded that this business model does not work. And I started to pursue trading. I said, look, let me stick to what I know. I've learned how to trade from my high school days. I've seen my mom trade all her life, so let me go back to trading. And that's what I did. So I went into, you know, several aspects of trading, men's clothes. I even had a cafeteria at some point. But, you know, again, business skills take time to develop. And I had been out of touch for so many years, almost 10 years, I was not really doing business at a serious level. So my skill set was limited to report at 8 o'clock, knock off at 5. And conformity. And as a result of it, I'll take full responsibility. My business has closed down. Now again, I have my husband who has pumped in so much capital into what I'm doing. I have the people who are looking up to me and saying, oh, look at her, she's a pastor's wife, and you know, you've got kids, you've got your personal needs, and now I'm sitting thinking to myself, good Lord, what next? What next? What am I going to do? And that's when I started, Longreach started knocking on my heart, you know, like.
What changed your mind?
What changed my mind was the product.
Okay.
Because, you know, my upline, my leader, Sister Swaki, she had been on my case for several months. And I thought to myself, you know, these network marketing people, they can be such a bother. You know, they'll be in your inbox, they'll be on your phone. You'll be seeing their brands everywhere. Whatever it is you try to converse with them about, they will just be talking about their products. But there was a time when I needed to use a different type of sanitary napkin. You know, being women, I noticed that maybe because of stress or several changes, you know, yeast infections were so frequent. So a good friend of mine who happens to be my cousin, who, you know, she's a specialist at women's health, she recommended, she said, you know what, you could actually change your life by changing your sanitary napkin. And since it was coming from a neutral person, I sat up and I said to myself, maybe I should consider. Maybe I should consider, because I'd frequented the gynae for a number of months, and, you know, I was now getting tired of it. But I still wasn't convinced. And then I thought to myself, really, what do I stand to lose? If I send her 1,000 rands and she sends me these sanitary napkins that they're saying have so many health benefits, what do I stand to lose? So I took the step, and I got the first Longreach panty liners then. And I used them, and interestingly, after a few days, I noticed a huge difference. And I said, wow, okay, so this actually works. So they're actually network marketing companies whose products actually work.
And you understand why they're passionate.
So that made me sit up. But I still wasn't convinced. What I really wanted was to be able to get the product at a discount. So she told me, look, if you register an account, you'll be able to get a member price, so you won't have to buy off of me at a profit. And I said, okay, go ahead and do it. So she did. And then I tried the body wash and the bamboo soap and the sword, and I was like, oh wow, okay, these are nice products. And then later on, I started trying the supplements, and the supplements also worked beautifully. So I became interested, but not to the level of me being passionate enough to come in as a distributor. When she noticed that my purchases were increasing, she said, why don't you register a second account? So I said, okay, if that's going to help me to have the so-called PVs that you're talking about, then maybe I should go ahead and do that. So I registered my husband's account and then my son's account, and I continued. You know, I first shared the products free of charge. I told the ladies, you know what, these are working for me, try them out. And guess what, they came back with the same feedback. They said, wow, this is an amazing product. And some of them even started explaining other benefits that I never knew the panty
So it opened
liners.
up your eyes in a whole different way.
In a whole different way. So it was a product that changed my mind. And then a little later, I then started to weigh my options. I said, okay, look, I've got these businesses that I've closed down. And I have this product that people are gaining interest in because of how it works. Maybe there's an opportunity here. Maybe there's something that I'm missing. Maybe I shouldn't look at this the way I've looked at the 5 other MLMs that I jumped in and jumped out of.